All right, ready to dive deep. Today it's The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's super popular, right? Everyone seems to love its simple but really profound take on, finding freedom.
Yeah, and it's all rooted in this ancient Toltec wisdom.
Exactly. It's like a practical guide to navigating your own mind, getting rid of those limitations we put on ourselves.
What I find so interesting about Ruiz is that he doesn't just, throw these Toltec ideas out there as some abstract concept.
Yeah.
He gives you tools, like things you can actually use day to day to actually shift your perspective and how you live your life.
Oh, absolutely. And he starts off with this super cool concept, the smoky mirror.
Yeah, the smoky mirror.
It's like a metaphor for how we see ourselves in the world of we're looking through this veil of smoke, makes everything all blurred.
Right, and that smoke, it comes from what Ruiz calls domestication.
Domestication?
Yeah, basically how we get conditioned from childhood. We accept certain beliefs and behaviors as, like, the norm,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're causing us a lot of suffering.
Okay, so break down this domestication thing a bit more. Sounds kind of intense.
Think of a kid, right? Being told over and over they can't sing.
Oh, yeah.
Over time, they start to believe it, even if they have a great voice.
Wow. Yeah. Powerful example. So those messages, those rules we learned growing up, they form our belief system, and that shapes how we see everything.
Exactly. And it's not just on an individual level either. Release says this creates a collective dream, the dream of the planet.
So society's dream.
Yeah, like a shared reality built on fear and violence.
So we're all buying into this illusion, a dream that's more of a nightmare.
And that's where the suffering comes in. We get so caught up in this dream that we lose sight of who we truly are.
And then there's that, what was it, that mental chatter he talks about?
The mitote.
The mito, right, it's making things even more unclear.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this smoky mirror messing with our vision, this domestication shaping our beliefs, and the mitote just creating chaos in our heads. Sounds bleak, man. Any hope of breaking free?
That's where the four agreements come in. Think of them like tools to shatter that mirror, challenge those rules, and quiet the mitote.
All right, let's get to these agreements. Ready for some serious mental decluttering.
The first one, and probably the most important one, is be impeccable with your word.
So more than just avoiding bad words, right?
Much deeper. It's recognizing how powerful your words are. They shape your reality and everyone else's.
Okay.
It's speaking with integrity, kindness, being mindful. Knowing your words have a real impact.
So being aware of the energy we're putting out there.
Exactly. Remember that example about the kid and singing? Those words, even if you don't mean them in a bad way, they stick with someone.
Yeah, like a spell.
And gossip, that's another way we use words carelessly. Ruiz compares it to, like, a computer virus, spreading negativity.
So the first agreement is a wake-up call to use our words for good.
Exactly. Words have the power to create. We have to use them wisely.
That's a challenge I think we can all get behind.
The second agreement, don't take anything personally. Maybe one of the hardest ones to, actually master.
I can see that. It's so easy to take things to heart, especially when someone criticizes us or does something that hurts us.
It's because we make it about us. We see everything through our own experiences. We assume other people's actions are directed at us.
Right.
But Ruiz says most of the time, it's not about you. It's their own stuff, their own insecurities, their fears.
So even if someone says something mean, it's really about them, not me.
Exactly. It's their world, their issues coming out. When we take it personally, we give them power over us, and we just cause ourselves more pain.
So by not taking things personally, we're taking back control.
Exactly. You choose not to let their negativity affect you. Doesn't mean you don't care. It's just understanding they're living in their own reality.
Okay, so even if someone calls me stupid, it's not really about my intelligence.
Right. It's more about them and their limitations, not you.
Wow, that's a real shift in thinking. I can see how that would bring more peace.
It's about freeing yourself, not needing to defend yourself all the time. You respond with awareness, not just reacting with hurt.
Okay, so far we've got be impeccable with your word and don't take anything personally. What's next?
Don't make assumptions. We all do it. But assumptions lead to, so many misunderstandings, arguments, drama.
Oh, I am so guilty of this one. I jump to conclusions all the time.
It's natural, right? We try to make sense of the world, but sometimes we don't have all the info, so we fill in the blanks with assumptions.
Uh-huh.
And those assumptions, often based on our own baggage, our fears, might not be true at all.
So we're basically creating stories in our heads that might have nothing to do with reality.
Exactly. Like imagine you see someone, on the street and they quickly look away.
Oh, yeah.
You might assume they're ignoring you or mad at you, but maybe they were just lost in thought.
I've been there. I've created whole dramas in my head over one little interaction.
Ruiz says ask questions. Communicate directly. Don't try to read minds.
So instead of assuming, we should like pause and get more information.
Exactly. Clear communication, that's key to healthy relationships. Don't be afraid to ask, to express what you need, to listen openly.
Sounds simple, but like unlearning that habit of assuming, that takes work.
It does, but it's worth it. It can really change your relationships, make life less stressful.
All right, I'm up for the challenge. What's the fourth agreement?
Always do your best. Sounds simple, but it's deeper than you think.
So it's not about being perfect all the time or like pushing ourselves to the limit.
Right. Ruiz knows our best changes from day to day. Depends on our energy, what's going on.
Okay.
Sometimes our best is amazing, other times it's just showing up and trying.
So it's more about the intention, the effort, not the result.
Exactly. Put your heart into it, even if you don't love the task.
So even like a boring work task, I can still do my best by being present, being mindful.
Yes, and that's where the magic is. When you focus on the process, even those mundane things become more enjoyable.
Finding the joy in the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And when you consistently try your best, those other agreements, they become easier.
Like they all work together.
Exactly. They create a more harmonious life.
Okay, so to recap, be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. Sounds simple, but I can see how powerful they could be.
It's the consistency that matters. It's not about perfection. It's about making the effort to live by them every day.
Now, Ruiz also talks about this Toltec path to freedom. Sounds like we're going deeper. What's that about?
It's a journey, self-discovery, transformation. Three main things: awareness, transformation, intent.
Okay, let's start with awareness. What does that mean?
It's like waking up, becoming aware of your thoughts, your beliefs, how you act, seeing how that dream of the planet, that domestication, has shaped you.
And how those things might be holding us back.
Exactly. Once you see it, you can start to change it.
Which brings us to transformation.
Transformation is actively changing those old beliefs, the ones based on fear, that don't serve you anymore. You create new agreements that are true to who you are.
So rewriting the script, choosing a different story.
Yes, and the four agreements are tools for doing that.
And lastly, intent.
Intent is aligning your actions with your deepest values. It's knowing you have the power to shape your reality by what you do.
So taking responsibility, consciously creating the life we want.
Exactly. Tapping into that creative force Ruiz talks about, using it to make your dreams happen.
This is already blowing my mind, but wait, there's more, right? Ruiz also talks about this parasite. Sounds a bit creepy.
It is a powerful metaphor, though. It represents that inner critic, the voice of self-doubt that can really sabotage us.
So it's not a literal parasite, right? It's our negative thoughts.
Exactly. Ruiz describes it as this, like, energy being feeding off our negative emotions, especially fear. So that little voice that's always
Putting us down.
right. It can be sneaky because we think it's our own voice, but Ruiz says it actually controls our mind if we let it.
He says it's made up of the judge, the victim, and the belief system. What does that mean?
The judge is that part of us that criticizes everything, finds fault. The victim feels helpless, stuck. And the belief system, all those rules and judgments we've taken on from society.
And all those things work together to keep us feeling small.
Exactly. And the parasite, it thrives on that negativity.
So how do we get rid of it?
You have the power. But it takes awareness, effort, and the willingness to challenge those thoughts.
Sounds tough, but I'm ready to fight for my mental freedom.
And remember, it's not about pretending those thoughts don't exist. It's about recognizing them for what they are. Just thoughts, not facts.
So if that voice says I'm not good enough, I can just say, nope, not true.
Exactly. You change your relationship with those thoughts. Don't let them define you.
But that takes practice, right? Those negative patterns can be so strong.
It does take practice. Ruiz says it's a process, like training a muscle. The more you use those mental muscles of awareness and choice, the stronger they get.
So each time we catch ourselves falling back into those old patterns, it's like a chance to work those muscles.
Exactly. And don't worry about being perfect. You'll slip up sometimes, you'll break the agreements. The key is to not beat yourself up about it.
So if I catch myself gossiping or taking something personally, I should just acknowledge it, forgive myself, and start over.
Exactly. Every time you choose to align with the agreements, you're getting stronger.
Ruiz also talks about how every time we break an agreement, the power we used to create it comes back to us. What does that mean?
It means that when you act in alignment with the agreements, you're reclaiming your energy. And the more energy you have, the easier it is to break free from those old limiting beliefs.
So we're building momentum, like leveling up in a game.
Exactly. Each level gives you new skills to face tougher challenges.
I love that analogy. It makes it feel less scary, more like an adventure.
That's the point. It's not about punishment. It's about approaching growth with curiosity, even humor.
So we can laugh at ourselves when we mess up, knowing it's part of the process.
Absolutely. Those moments when you slip up, They're actually chances to learn.
So it's about progress and not perfection. I can get on board with that. But Ruiz is honest. This journey can be tough. He uses the word hell sometimes.
Right, and he's not talking about, fire and brimstone. He's talking about the mental and emotional pain we cause ourselves when we're stuck in those negative patterns.
And he uses that vivid image of the wounded mind, right? Like having your skin covered in sores.
Powerful, isn't it? It shows how much we can suffer because of those old beliefs.
And he says most of us are so used to living with those wounds that we don't even realize how much they hurt.
We think it's just normal, but it doesn't have to be this way, he says.
So how do we start to heal?
By being aware of those thoughts and beliefs that are causing the pain, and then choosing to replace them with new ones, agreements based on love and freedom.
So rewriting the script again, choosing a story that empowers us.
Exactly. And you don't have to do it alone. Find guides, mentors, people who can support you.
So having a good community, whether it's friends or a spiritual teacher, can really help.
Absolutely. Sharing your journey with people who understand makes a huge difference.
And Ruiz mentions allies, too, like spiritual guides.
He's saying there are forces out there beyond what we can see that can offer help.
Whether it's earthly or spiritual support, it's good to know we're not alone.
And in the end, the power to heal is within you. You can choose love over fear, break free, and create a life you truly desire.
But it's not all about us, right? Ruiz talks about how our own growth can impact the world.
Absolutely. He says that as we heal and become more loving, we naturally contribute to a more peaceful world.
Be the change, right?
Exactly. That change starts within each of us, challenging those old agreements and dreaming a new dream, a dream of love, freedom, and joy.
That brings us to the initiation of the dead. Sounds intense. What's that about?
It's symbolic. Letting go of that old self, the one controlled by fear.
Like a spiritual rebirth.
Exactly. And it can happen in many ways. A big life change, a spiritual practice, even just choosing to face your fears.
It talks about surrendering to the angel of death so a new self can be born.
It's recommending that you're not defined by your past, your wounds, or the inner critic.
Powerful image, but it sounds painful too.
It can be challenging. You face your fears, acknowledge where you've been hurting, and let go of what's holding you back.
But there's freedom on the other side.
Absolutely. He calls it a resurrection, a new life guided by love.
So it's about letting go of who we thought we were, embracing the unknown, and stepping into who we truly are.
Beautifully put. It's about evolving, shedding the old, and growing. It takes courage, compassion, and trust.
So we can choose to stay stuck in suffering or embrace this death and become more authentic and free.
That's the choice. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are teachers and guides to help you along the way.
That's good to know. This whole idea of the initiation of the dead is pretty mind-blowing. I'm definitely curious about what comes after.
Ruiz calls it the new dream. And that's what we'll talk about next time. It's a vision of what's possible when we break free from the past and dream a new dream for ourselves and for humanity.
I can't wait. This is getting really interesting. So last time we were talking about that parasite, that inner critic. Man, that image really stuck with me.
It's pretty vivid, right? Gets to the core of how much we suffer because of our own thinking.
Yeah, for sure. So how do we actually break free from that thing? Do we have to, like, fight it off?
Well, Ruiz does use this warrior analogy. He talks about becoming a spiritual warrior, defending those 4 agreements, fighting for your freedom.
So we got to get tough with those negative thoughts.
It's more about courage, I think. The courage to challenge those old beliefs that are based on fear, recognizing you have a choice. You can think a different thought.
So instead of letting the parasite run wild, we can actually question it, replace those thoughts with something better.
Exactly. You don't have to pretend the negative thoughts aren't there. Just see them for what they are. Thoughts? Not always the truth.
So when that voice pops up and says, you're not good enough, I can be like, nah, not buying it today.
That's it. You shift how you relate to those thoughts. They don't have to define you.
That probably takes a lot of practice, right? Those negative patterns are pretty deeply ingrained.
Oh, for sure. It takes practice. Ruse says it's gradual. Like working a muscle. The more you use those mental muscles, that awareness, that choice, the stronger they become.
So each time we fall back into those old patterns, it's a chance to, like, flex those muscles, choose a different path.
Exactly. And remember, you're not going for perfection. You will mess up. You will break those agreements.
Yeah.
The important thing is not to beat yourself up about it.
So, like, if I catch myself gossiping or taking something personally, I should just notice it, forgive myself, and move on.
Exactly. Each time you come back to those agreements, you're strengthening that commitment to your own freedom.
There's that part where Ruiz says, each time we break an agreement, the power we used to create it comes back to us. What does he mean by that?
He means that when you're aligned with the agreements, you're getting your energy back, your personal power. And the more of that you have, the easier it is to break free from those old limitations.
So it's like we build momentum as we go, like gaining strength.
Yeah, like leveling up in a video game. Each level, you get new skills, you can face bigger challenges.
I love that. Makes it feel more fun, less intimidating.
That's exactly what Ruiz wants us to see. It's not about punishing ourselves. It's about approaching this with curiosity, playfulness, even a little humor.
So it's okay to laugh at our mistakes, knowing it's all part of learning.
Absolutely, those screw-ups, they're actually great opportunities to grow.
Progress, not perfection. I like that. But Ruiz doesn't sugarcoat it. This journey can be tough. He even talks about hell.
Right, and he's not talking about the, fire and brimstone kind of hell. He means that mental and emotional anguish we feel when we're stuck in those negative loops.
He uses that image of the wounded mind, skin covered in sores, constantly hurting.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. But it really gets across how much suffering those old beliefs can cause.
And he says most of us are so used to those wounds, we don't even notice the pain anymore.
We think it's normal, but Ruiz says, no way, it doesn't have to be like this.
So how do we begin to heal?
Awareness is the first step. Seeing those thoughts and beliefs that are causing the pain. Then you can choose to replace them. Swap them out for agreements that are about love, integrity, freedom.
So we're back to rewriting that script, choosing a story that makes us stronger.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone in this. Ruiz talks about how important it is to find guides and mentors, people who can support you.
So having a good community is really important.
Absolutely. Sharing your journey with people who get it can be a huge help.
And he mentions allies too, right? Like spiritual helper.
He's suggesting there are forces beyond what we can see that can help us on this path.
Well, whether it's people here or, spiritual support, it's good to know we're not in this alone.
And ultimately, you have the power to heal. It's inside you. You can choose love over fear, break free, and create the life you want.
But it's not all just about us, right? Our own growth can affect things outside of ourselves.
100%. Ruiz says that as we heal and become more loving, we contribute to a more peaceful world.
Like be the change you want to see.
Exactly. That change starts with each of us. We have to challenge those old fear-based agreements and dream a new dream, a dream of love, freedom, joy, not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
Which leads us to that idea of the initiation of the dead. That sounds pretty heavy. What's that about?
It's a symbolic death, letting go of that old self, the one that's run by fear and those limiting beliefs.
Like a spiritual rebirth.
Exactly. It can happen in different ways, a big change of your life, a spiritual practice, even just choosing to face your fears head on.
Ruiz uses that image of surrendering to the angel of death to let a new self be born.
It's about realizing you're not your past, your wounds, or that negative voice inside.
Powerful stuff, but it sounds like it could be painful.
It could be challenging, facing your fears, admitting where you've caused harm, letting go of things that are holding you back.
But you come out the other side feeling free?
Totally. He calls it a resurrection, a new life where love is the guide.
So it's letting go of who you thought you were, stepping into the unknown, becoming who you truly are.
I love that. It's about evolving, shedding the old, growing into something new. And it takes courage, compassion, and trust in the process.
So we can either stay stuck in suffering or choose to go through this death and come out more free and authentic.
That's the choice where we present. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are teachers, mentors, guides to help you on that journey.
It is comforting to know that. This whole initiation of the dead concept, it's really make me think. Definitely curious to hear about what comes next.
Well, Ruiz calls it the new dream. And that's where we'll pick up next time. It's about what's possible when we break free from the past and dare to dream a new dream for ourselves and for everyone.
I can't wait. This is getting really exciting. All right, so we've talked about the parasite, the initiation of the dead, and now we're on to the new dream. It's like we're on this epic journey.
Yeah, it does feel kind of mythic, doesn't it? But Ruiz is actually really practical about it. Like, okay, let's say we let go of those old stories, the ones based on fear. What does a new story, a more powerful story, look like?
So it's like creating a whole new reality.
Yeah, exactly. He calls it the new dream, but it's not some, far-off utopia. It's about changing how we see things, breaking free from the limits of what he calls the dream of the planet, choosing to create our own personal heaven right here, right now.
Okay, that's interesting. So what does this personal heaven look like exactly? Do we all get like fluffy clouds and harps?
He's talking about something a lot more down to earth. Imagine living without that constant fear. The fear of being judged, of not being good enough, of taking a chance.
Right.
It's about being yourself, flaws and all. Really experiencing joy, love, peace, even when life gets messy.
So it's not about having a perfect life where nothing bad ever happens.
No, not at all. He knows we all have baggage, those wounds from the past, those whispers from the parasite. But the new dream is about navigating it all with more awareness, compassion, and freedom, even with the tough stuff.
It sounds like it takes a lot of courage to even think about living that freely.
It does, but Ruiz believes we can get there, one step at a time, one choice at a time. Remember those four agreements? Those are like the tools for building this new dream. It's about practicing forgiveness for ourselves and others and connecting with that love that's already inside us.
So the new dream isn't something that just happens to us, it's something we actively create.
Absolutely. He wants us to become conscious creators, to step into our power and choose happiness, choose love, choose freedom.
It's powerful, but it also sounds a little overwhelming. Like, where do you even start?
He says start small. Pick one of the four agreements and focus on it today. Or maybe try forgiving someone you've been holding a grudge against. Even just taking a moment to appreciate the beauty around you, feeling grateful for the little things.
The small changes inside us can start to change things outside of us, too.
That's what he's saying. And he believes that when more and more of us start living this new dream, it creates a shift, a movement toward a better world.
So it's not just about changing ourselves, it's about changing the world, too.
Exactly. He's not saying it's easy or that it happens overnight, but he paints a picture of what's possible when we choose love over fear, when we break free from those old limitations and dare to dream a new dream, not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
It's really cool how Ruiz brings together these old Toltec teachings with like modern psychology and personal growth stuff.
Yeah, it's a really unique blend. He takes this ancient wisdom and makes it totally relevant to our lives today.
And he does it in a way that's both inspiring and practical. He's not telling us to be perfect. He's giving us tools to live more consciously, more joyfully, and more freely.
And reminding us that we don't have to do it alone. We've got each other, teachers, mentors, and that universal love connecting us all.
Well, this deep dive into the four agreements has been quite a journey. Smoky mirror, the parasite, the inundation of the dead, the new dream. We've covered a lot. It's given me so much to think about and some real tools to start using.
I'm so glad to hear that. Don't forget, the power to change your life and the world is inside you.
What advice would you give to our listeners who are feeling inspired to create their own new dream?
I'd say ask yourself, what would my personal heaven on earth look like? How would you live? How would you love? What would you create? And then start taking steps, any steps, to make that vision a reality.
I love that. And remember, you don't have to have all the answers or get it perfect. Start where you are, use what you've got, and trust the process.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That wraps up our deep dive into the four agreements. Thanks for joining us on this exploration.
And until next time, keep diving deep, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep dreaming that new dream for yourself and for the world.